Okay, cool. So I guess we'll just do a quick round of introduction. So I'm Sam. I founded the project, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm going to hand it off to Rebecca.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I'm the creative director of the OnCanada Project, and my pronouns are she and her as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Nouran El Gendy, and I'm a refugee and I'm a human rights defender living here in Canada since 2018. And my pronouns is she, her.
So I think before we leap into our conversation, Nouran, you had a land acknowledgement that you wanted to share with us first.
Yeah. Can I start now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I acknowledge that I'm on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations and other Indigenous people who lived here over time.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I'm so excited to meet you, and I was so grateful that Rebecca was able to bring this together. We were sort of touching on this a little bit earlier about refugees in a lot of our heads are coming from places with wars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still the case, I think. There's a lot of people who are fleeing wars and state-sanctioned violence in terms of like physical wars and stuff going on. But you have a very, not unique, but different from the popular narrative. And I think maybe before we jump into that, I think, Rebecca, you had something to note around the terminology we'll be using today, because that was super key.
Yeah, so generally on the OnCanada Project, we use the acronym 2S LGBTQIA+ to define kind of the queer community in general. But obviously today you might hear us use more the term LGBTI, and that's not because we want to like exclude anybody at all. It's simply because that acronym represents what the UN considers a protected people and who are allowed to claim refugee status. So only gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people can actually apply for a refugee claimant. And obviously that's like a whole other conversation of like so many people are being excluded from that term and should be protected and should be allowed to claim refugee status. But just wanted everybody at home to know that we're not doing that on purpose if we do say just LGBTQI. So yeah. Yeah, today is, like we said, we might have mentioned, is World Refugee Day, and it is also Pride Month. So we thought it'd be a great time to kind of talk about that intersection, because one of the largest, or I said fastest growing groups of refugees are LGBTI people in the world. They face a lot of criminalization, persecution, violence. There are over 69 countries where it is illegal to be in a same-sex relationship, and different genders are criminalized, and over 5 countries where it's almost it's punishable by death. So we have the lovely Nouran here with us, who's going to share her story with us.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to speak in this and let the people know the reality of a person who fled their country just because they were in love with a same gender person. It's not like you're not fleeing your country just because you're doing something terrorist or something like that, but you're just fleeing your country because you're in love. You know, it's very hard for me. Yeah, it's let me start by the LGBTQ in Egypt and how they've been living there, because the LGBTQ people in Egypt are chased and hunted by the society and the government. So we've been hiding everywhere in the country, especially because there is no law against us in the constitution. In the Egyptian constitution, there is no law against us, but they put us in prison because they think that we are sex workers. They're treating us as the sex worker women, especially like that. And you can get up to 10 years in prison if they caught you doing sex with the same gender person. So you're fleeing everyone and you're fleeing everything. And it's like that because the second amendment in our constitution in Egypt, it's saying that our laws is based on the Sharia and the Islamic Sharia. But it's contradictory, because when we think about the Islam, I see that the Ottoman Empire, it was having law to protect the gays. So you're here playing politics. It's not something like because of the Islam or the religion. No, it's politics. Because here in Canada, there is the Mosque of El Salam. It's called the Salam Mosque, and they accept the LGBT people. So like, it's not about the religion as it's about politics and how they play with it. So this is a brief about what's happening for the LGBTQ in Egypt.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I can't imagine, I can't imagine that. And then what's like so upsetting about that statement is like how privileged it is to be in a country like Canada, where I haven't had to ever think about what that thought it is. And like, I don't know, Rebecca, like for you, that must strike home a lot more than it would for me.
Yeah, like I had my own coming out journey as well, but it was kind of the only fear I had was just kind of saying it to my friends and family and how they would react. I never was afraid of hiding it from literally everybody I'd ever met, like, and being afraid of saying it. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, once I came out and everybody was like, yeah, that's totally cool. Like, you can, you know, be queer, like, go for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just go ahead and like, not have to worry about that. I can only imagine. So, Nouran, what was it like for you growing up? You said you kind of realized really young you were gay.
Yeah, I realized when I was maybe in grade 2 or 3 that I love women. It's like I started to have some crushes and to my classmates, and because I was in a girl school only for girls, so I started to have some crushes, and until I realized at grade I think it was at grade 9 that no, this is haram for me and I cannot be lesbian for me and God will not accept me and everything. So I wear the hijab for a while to try to be close to God for me. So because I was Muslim, so I thought maybe if I'm true Muslim, I will never think this way. I will never think that I'm lesbian or I love women because it's haram. So until I realized when I was at university that no, it's me. I cannot hide. I cannot be another person. I cannot marry a man. I cannot love men. So my family knew about my sexuality, and it was very hard for me because at this time they put me in a mental health institution so they can treat me. And they locked me a while in my room at Saudi Arabia because this time I was at Saudi Arabia, and they started to say to me, if you're going to be a lesbian, then this is an illness. You cannot be like a lesbian. You have to be treated. So I did like an acting that okay, I will not be a lesbian anymore. So just I can live my life because I was threatened by them that I will be staying in this mental health institution. So I acted a little play that no, I'm not lesbian anymore and I'm a straight person. Until what happened, the Mashroua Leila concert in September 2017, when Sarah Hijazi, may her soul rest in peace, raised the rainbow flag. So they started to know that I'm still lesbian. At this time, I ran out from my house with my partner. And when I ran out, I found that they did a death certificate for me. So I cannot go back to Egypt. I cannot have any money from them. I cannot do anything because they're ashamed of me. And during all of this time that I was pretending that I'm lesbian, I had a virginity test from them. I've been testing for HIV because like every homophobic person, they think that being a member of this community, then suddenly you will be having HIV because it's I don't know, it's a very ignorant people that think this way. So I had to run away. I had to leave the country because it's not only my family, it's also the society. Because you are also a woman who's living in Egypt. It's very hard, much harder for women to live in Egypt because it's the second country for the harassment that happened in the streets. Like 9 of every 10 women who's been facing harassing in the street. So you cannot even live as a woman, as a straight woman there. So my only solution was for me and Miral just to flee this country and leave it with everything that we could take it with us. And we came here to Canada in 2018.
My goodness. I can't, oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I can't imagine what it's like to have to share it and have to hear it again and have to think about it. Like, I'm sure you're thinking about it all the time. Like, how do you let go of something like that? But I do really think it's really important because I'm like, there's so much that you said that I like, it's such heavy subject matter, but then at the same time, it's like very simple because like, I know it's like an overused phrase, but if you like, love is love. So like, it doesn't really, it's not a political issue. It's not, it shouldn't be a political issue. It shouldn't be a religious issue. It should just be an issue of like who you love and what you want out of the world and out of your partnership. And that should be it. But to have to face that from your family and the country that you called home and everything, I just,
Yeah, and you know, you come here and you're supposed to live in a country that respect you as a human person, but you find that the way the people look at the refugee, how they think that we are ignorant and we're not we're lazy or we're not brave enough. And but I think like every refugee who fled their country, they are brave to just be alive till now, you know, like
yeah.
to be alive and trying to succeed in this life. But then you think about the people, how they look at you and how you always have to prove yourself to these people. It's very hard like to be living like this way every day.
Yeah, I'm interested because I remember you mentioned in the past, like, what was your idea of Canada before you came here, and then what was your actual experience coming to Canada and being a refugee from Egypt?
Yeah, I was thinking that Canada is the pink paradise countries that have nothing and like everything is perfect, and I was so excited. And then when I came here, I suddenly found that like the reality, the truth, you know, it's like what's happening. I found that there is nothing can support the refugees. During my process to apply for asylum, me and Miral, we were thinking that maybe the community centers and the organization that are supposed to help the refugee, but nothing is happening. It's like when you're going just want to have a home, so you went to apply for any community center or organization, they just help you with KGG links and that's it. So it's like, okay, what should I do now? It's like nothing you can do. Like there is no housing, there is no resource support, there is nothing can tell you how to go back to study, there is nothing can tell you how how can I learn the language. I had the privilege that I know that I can speak English or French, but you know, it's like there is a lot of people who cannot speak even the language. So how they're going to work, how they're going to start their life here. The country should provide these people, and I'm one of these people, should provide these people at least the minimum barrier of resources to have, just to learn the language, just to have a housing support, just to have some money to start your life, because not everybody's coming here having millions of pounds or Canadian dollars. It's like the people are fleeing the death threats and the death and the wars just to be alive in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's really not enough just to be like you can seek asylum here if you don't, if it's not a life with dignity, if it's not a life where you can, it could, I know it's not like you're not in fear of death in the same way, but like that doesn't mean that you can exchange that for other hardship here. Like that doesn't really seem like the solution. It seems like if you welcome someone here, you believe that there are human rights that are being violated, so then you should be helping them rebuild a life here, not just be like welcome and leave them. That's ridiculous.
That's what's happening. It's like you've been like, for my case, I've been here in Canada 3 years, like since 2018 until now. I don't have a stable house till today. We're moving because nothing can help us. Like I cannot afford the first and last. I don't have enough resources to enter a stable home just to start my life. You know, it's like I just had the credit the last month, finally, after applying and and nobody wants to give me the credit. And finally, after like the last month I had it, I just had my PR after 3 months of coming here. So like I started to build my life this year, but the other 2 years, nothing happened. I would just drawn in my depression and my trauma and PTSD, and nobody gives a shit about the mental health of the refugees. Nobody think about how these people are suffering. They're just fleeing from the death, literally. And you just come here and you expect from these people to integrate in the community and the society. Yes, we should integrate, but we should first find the support, a resource to integrate. we just, I don't know if you heard about Sarah Higazi. She just took her life. She was refugee as us. She just came before us, and she just took her life, her own life, last year. She was a refugee. She didn't have any resources. She didn't have nothing. And she was in our same boat, moving, no education, no access to education, no access to money, no access to a dignity employment, nothing. And she just had depression and PTSD and trauma, because her story is much worse than mine, because she was in prison in Egypt, because she just raised a rainbow flag. So she came here to Canada, and she decided, like, she thought that she will finally be safe, but what actually happened? She took her own life. So Canada is not doing well enough for the refugees, not only the LGBTQ refugees, but every refugee who come here. She's not doing enough.
I think that's devastating. And I think what I am reminded of is my master's studies, which was around trauma and violence informed care. So, and the fact that when you're providing care, when you're providing support, you have to take into consideration that people have different lived experience, whether they're immigrants or refugees, or just like even just Canadians that like have been living here. When you're to be able to provide care that actually works. Because if you're going, I was just reading something in the comments where, you know, someone's going to a hospital and seeking help, and you were talking about, you know, virginity tests and stuff being done. Like, you probably don't trust the health system, but now you're there in like using it. And if it's not a space that makes you feel welcomed, if it's not a space that trusts you, if it's not a space where your dignity is upheld, then it turns you away from that. So it's even the things like healthcare, which is like technically an existing system in Canada, and that refugees would be able to access, that if that's not being done with trauma and violence informed care, then like what are we doing? And
Yeah.
Not to take the conversation too far off, but I think often when people talk about this type of stuff, they go like, well, there's just like not enough resources to put towards this, or we've got to realign it here, and like, shouldn't we take care of Canadians first? And I've always been so confused about that, because there's like a lot of money that gets allocated to a lot of places. It's just like prioritizing what matters. And if human rights matters to a country, it shouldn't just be the human rights of people that you of certain groups of people, and then have like a priority list or something. It should just be like, no, we care about people's human rights, and that's just like everybody's human rights over here, not just like a certain particular group.
I think Canada is not only failing the refugee, it's failing the Canadians themselves.
Oh, sure.
When we're seeing what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, and nobody is like thinking about what the racism in Canada, and they say, no, we don't have racism. But like, what's happening? No, there is racism here. There is homophobia. There is patriarchy. There is misogyny. But they don't care. Like, the politician here in Canada, they don't care. They just want to have the picture of pink Canada, you know, like the paradise of pink Canada. But it's not the reality. That's why the world don't acknowledge or don't know what's happening in Canada. For even the Canadian, not the refugees. Like, we can see what's happening even to the indigenous. The owners of the land, what's happening to them from the colonizers, the Canadians. Like, it's crazy, because I didn't know about anything before I came to Canada. It's like, I didn't know, because they don't let this news to go out. That's what I'm saying.
To be fair, most of us didn't know, like, because the cases were set up, like they didn't tell us shit. So
yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have a problem in Canada where I think we've convinced ourselves that, like, oh, we're better than America, so then that means we're perfect. No, we're we're slightly better, and that's it. Like, yeah, like there's been, even just here in Toronto a couple of weekends ago, there was a homophobic attack at Hanlan's Point, which is like a famous queer beach area, and like even like people in the LGBTQI community like experience a lot of discrimination even now, even just like you said in healthcare. Like, I've had doctors who just don't know what to do when I tell them I'm queer. They're like, what? Like, they have no concept of how to take care of someone who isn't straight and stuff like that. So yeah, we like to think we are a great place that allows refugees to come in.
The healthcare, because me and my partner, we had a very bad story with the healthcare system. She was just And last December, she was in the hospital, hospitalized, because they didn't know what does she have. They started to say that she's having a mental illness issue because like she doesn't have pain, and it was having pain in her left cartilage. And they started to say, no, it's not real. Maybe because you have a trauma or you are a refugee, so you have some PTSD. This is not real. And she was literally every day saying to her, you have to leave the hospital, until we did a petition. It's like, what is happening? What are you saying to her? Why are you doing this? She's in pain. She's literally in pain. And I was like, I was so frustrated because they don't really believe you when you are in pain. Even it's like, no, you're not in pain. You're just imagining the pain. It's like, how they can treat you this way? You know, it's like, I don't know really.
Yeah, I think it's really not okay, and I think that systemic racism and bias and issues, like, it's obviously, it stems back to our colonial heritage in this country, but that's such an experience for so many people in this country, even if they've been here for like Indigenous people who've been here forever or go through the same conversations in hospitals. Like, it's honestly, like, truthfully, if you're not white, and that might be a bit of an overgeneralization, but if you're not white, you're questioned. Or if you don't look like you have enough income in your bank account, like, you're questioned, which is stupid, but because it's a free healthcare system, but whatever. And yeah, women of color as well. I don't know, that's just really devastating. And the other, I think I saw a comment earlier that I just want to note on that was saying, well, this individual worked at like immigration services in Canada, and like there were things set up and available. And I think what she's probably saying is probably true. There's probably refugee centers and like these things there. The thing is, like, in the same way that during the pandemic, they just put stuff on websites and expected us to go find it and go through the websites and figure that all out while like working from home, taking care of children in some people's cases, not mine, and like having like the stress of a pandemic and going through all of this shit, and then being like, okay, it's on the website, go figure it out. Like, that's not an option when you're stressed and you're overwhelmed and you're like, that wasn't an option for a lot of us. That's why this project exists, because we didn't make up that info. We took it off of websites and we brought it to where people are, which is Instagram or social media. In that same way, these type of services need to be brought to people who are refugees in this country. We can't just be like, welcome to Canada, it's out there, go find it, go find it. Like, what? There's so much trauma that they've been through because they're refugees. They're not just like, you know what, I want to start my life over in another country, maybe go see what's up. They're fleeing for their life, and then we're like, thank you for being here. I know what you've been through a lot. Go figure out how to take care of yourself. Like, I just think the idea of not doing everything you can to set someone up for success, which like long-term benefits us as an economy and as a country, blows my mind. Like, it blows my mind. I don't get that. And I'm so sorry this has been your experience. Like,
you know, like even during the COVID, when they started to say that there is CERB, the people can apply for it, it's like nothing for the refugees. Like, did you think about how can they get money, how they can do no works accept us because they think that we are here temporary? And I've tried working in restaurants and in factories, but it's like a temporary work because they cannot think that I'm going to stay here because of my SIN number starts with a temporary number. So like they always say that I'm here temporary, so I will never get a job with dignity unless I have some Canadian certificate from here. Mm-hmm. It's like a loop. So how can I have the Canadian certificate without knowing how can I get my equivalent from Egypt or how entering a school here? I just found out this information 2 months ago that I can do an English test exam at any college that I want to enter. And if I pass this exam, I can enter because I'm a mature student. I just found out this information like 2 months ago and I didn't know about it. It's like, you know, it's nothing you can know. It's like by suddenly, like, you know, by chance, you can know how can I base my future by suddenly or by chance. I know that, oh my God, there is a test exam and I can take it. It's like, yeah, it's only by chance. It's like, so there is no enough resources to go to these people. No enough internet. Maybe I couldn't afford to have internet when I came to here to Canada. So how can I know that there is a place who have English exam or ESL courses or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have internet. Like, they don't think about this type of people. Yes.
I think what all often happens, sorry Rebecca if you had something to jump in there with, but what I think is like, I don't know about all of you, but like when I think about international issues, I get like a lot of anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, we can barely get our shit together in Canada. Like, how are we going to solve global issues? And I get really overwhelmed by that. So when we talk about things happening in the world and you hear that people are being killed because of who they love, that to me is like very distressing and upsetting. But what we can control is what we do for the people who come here and when they are able to get out of that. And not all of them do get out, but the ones that do get out and can come to a country where they can just be themselves fully, to not give them the tools to equip them with that, to not give them the tools to build them up and support them. That is within our control and we can make that happen. It's just not, because the issues that we hear about in the media, the issues that we hear spoken about when elections come around, isn't about refugees. It tailors to voters, people who traditionally vote, and what they need and what they want to hear. And it's not actually policies for all of us, policies that will get them elected. And yeah, I just think that's, sorry, Rebecca, did you have something to say? I'm just going through a whole moment right now, just in anger.
No, yeah, no, it's totally understandable, because it's like how can refugees can't vote? They can't like speak for themselves and have their voices heard, and it's like, who's gonna, like, how? Yeah, it's very but yeah, I know we're hitting the 30-minute mark, so I did just want to ask one last question to wrap things up. So Nouran, I wanted maybe to talk about, like, what was it like, because it is Pride Month, what was it like celebrating Pride in Canada, or for the first time? And I know for some people that can also be like, it's a fun celebration, but it can also be really sad because you remember like everything you lost and people that have been lost. So what was that like for you? And even today, was it like celebrating Pride for you?
Actually, since I came Canada, I didn't celebrate Pride, because I cannot celebrate Pride because I know what's happening to my own LGBT community in Egypt. And it's not only in Egypt, in all the Middle East. I know what's happening and how they've been tortured. I have my own friends who are still living there, how they are in prison, how they've been facing this. So I cannot go and celebrate. What I can do during this month is trying to speak up about the LGBT rights in the Middle East and the LGBT rights in Egypt, and how we should take it and do anything just to have some rights, have some dignities for our community in Egypt. So for me, it's all about protest. It's not about celebration at all.
Yeah, everybody needs to remember that the first Pride was a riot for a reason. Yeah, and we should always remember that. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else, Sam, from you?
No, I just like so much gratitude that you're here to share this and bring much needed attention to that intersectionality between.
I'm so happy to be with you today, and it's important for me to speak. So yeah, it's hard, but I'm trying to do it. So like, thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, thank you.
No, thank you so much for sharing. And
yeah, I can list a few Pride resources for people who want to help. There's obviously the UN Human Rights Commissioner on Refugees. There's organizations like the Rainbow Railroad here in Toronto, the 519, or the Rainbow Refugee in Vancouver. So check those out. Donate, volunteer, literally make friends at Pride and help any way you can.
Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. And we'll be sure to include some of those links in the caption of this video.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.